Yes. Okay, recording has been started. Let me share my screen. Can you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah. So basically, in today's session, we'll talk about Jenkins pipelines. Okay. So previously, we have seen. We have already worked on Jenkins, right? So we are good with the setup of Jenkins, creating of jobs by using our plugins, right? So in Jenkins, we do have Jenkins pipelines. So what is a pipeline? For example, okay, if you see this is our Jenkins server. Okay, so in Jenkins, if I click on new item, here we have something called pipeline. So what is the use of pipeline, or which particular jobs should we use, whether we should use freestyle jobs or we should use pipeline jobs? This will be commonly asked in interviews. I mean, what is a Jenkins pipeline? What is Jenkins file? And how can we set up a pipeline? This is a very common question which we can expect in interviews. Okay, so try to focus on today's session. So in Jenkins, we have a concept called pipeline. Basically, pipeline, what will happen? So pipeline is nothing but a set of tasks which needs to be executed, or whatever you want to automate, right? So everything we are going to define in a particular text file. Okay, so and that text file is called as Jenkins file. Okay, so we have something called Jenkins file, and this is the standard name what we are going to provide, which contains our plan. Okay, so instead of using Jenkins plugins, we can use Jenkins pipelines. So where are we going to define the pipeline? We are going to define the pipeline in the Jenkins file. So what is a Jenkins file now? What is a Jenkins file? Anyone?
Where all the stages is there. It's
Where we can build our pipeline with all the stages.
So basically, Jenkins file is a text file which contains all our CI/CD stages. Okay, so whatever you want to automate, whether you want to do the continuous integration, continuous deployment, or continuous delivery, everything we are going to integrate in our Jenkins file. Okay, so Jenkins file is nothing but a text file which have a set of instructions or the steps what needs to be automated. Okay, and the steps what we have defined is called as pipeline. Clear?
Yes.
So now, yeah. So now in Jenkins pipelines, we do have two type of pipelines. I mean, again in pipeline, we have two different types. This will be asked in interviews for sure. Whenever they are asking about Jenkins, right, they will be asking about pipelines only. No one is interested in plugin based jobs. Okay, so we have scripted pipeline.
Descriptive.
And declarative.
Declarative, not descriptive, declarative. Do not try to rhyme everything, okay? So we have scripted pipeline, and then we have declarative pipeline. So now what is the difference between them? I mean, why do we have two different pipelines?
One is configured in Jenkins file, and then one is configured in job, like inside the job.
Okay, apart from that, so basically when Jenkins has been started, right, I mean when this Jenkins application has been into the market, then we have only one option, that was scripted pipeline. There was no declarative pipeline option available. Okay, so in scripted pipeline or declarative pipeline, I mean declarative pipeline is the latest feature what Jenkins has added after a couple of years. Okay, now how to write this pipeline? So there is some difference in these two type of pipelines. We'll discuss about the difference as well. But before understanding the difference, I just want to know the I mean language what we are using for these pipelines. So how can you write this pipeline?
A Python or
Pipelines can be written using Groovy or Bash scripting. Okay, so Jenkins pipelines can be written using Groovy or Bash scripting. And Jenkins pipelines, this should be the first point. Okay, Jenkins pipeline uses domain specific language. Okay, so Jenkins pipelines will use domain specific language, that is DSL. Okay, and what is a domain specific language? It can be Groovy or Bash scripting. So this will be asked in interviews. I mean, how have you created pipelines? Yes. So have you used Groovy? So which language we have used for our pipelines? Have you used
Scripting.
Groovy or Bash scripting? Sorry?
Groovy.
Not Groovy. Basically, we are using Bash scripting for our pipelines because to understand Groovy language is for Java developers. I mean, Java developers can easily understand Groovy language. So we are not from the development background, right? So we don't know how to write Java code. Okay, so we are using Bash scripting to develop our pipelines. If someone is writing the pipelines in Groovy, then he might be having experience on Java as well. He should know the understanding of Java. Okay, so we'll ignore Groovy part for now. We will be focusing on Bash scripting. Clear?
So,
yes.
So this was the first feature, and declarative was the additional feature which has been added for Jenkins. Okay, so now what is the difference between these pipelines? This will be commonly asked in every interview. What is the difference between scripted pipeline and declarative pipeline? What is the difference between scripted pipeline and declarative pipeline? So let's focus on scripted pipeline. Scripted pipeline will start with node as a syntax. Okay, scripted pipeline will start with node as a syntax, means whenever the pipeline is getting started, right? So we can see node as a syntax. Clear?
yes, sir.
Okay, and then scripted pipeline will be configured inside the Jenkins job, means this pipeline will be written inside the Jenkins job. But this is not mandatory. Even you can have your scripted pipeline in Jenkins file as well and store that in the Git repository. Okay, so when I say Jenkins job means, let me create one pipeline. Okay, scripted pipeline is my name, pipeline. Okay, okay, and if I scroll down, so here we have the pipeline option, pipeline script, and here we can write our pipeline. Means all the steps will be defined inside this Jenkins job. Okay, and also here we have some sample applications. Okay, for example, hello world. Okay, so this is one pipeline. This is declarative pipeline example. So this is not mandatory, means scripted pipeline cannot, I mean, scripted pipelines can also be configured outside Jenkins job as well, but most of the times we can find scripted pipeline inside the Jenkins jobs only. Okay, and then why everyone is moving to declarative? Basically, as of now, declarative pipelines are very popular, and what is the reason?
Scripted are hard to understand. Declarative easy.
Pipeline is quite difficult to understand, okay, and any code can be injected. Pipeline, okay, means in scripted pipeline, the first thing is, for example, someone who doesn't have the background of development, for him it will be very difficult to understand scripted pipelines. And also developers, what they can do, they can try to inject the any code inside the pipeline. This will be allowed in scripted, okay, but scripted pipeline can help us with complex CI/CD and help us to control the flow. Okay, so scripted pipeline will help us to execute any complex CI/CD process. It will be very easy in order to manage with the help of scripted pipeline, because it is helping us to inject any type of code in the pipelines, right? So it will also help us to communicate with the APIs, means whenever we are using Groovy, right? So Groovy is a Java based language, so it will help us to communicate with all the Java APIs if you want to call any service, particular service or APIs, right? So that is possible with the help of scripted pipelines. Clear? Okay, and then declarative pipeline. We'll start with pipeline as a syntax. Okay, so declarative pipeline will start with the syntax called pipeline, and then declarative pipeline will be configured in Jenkins file and stored in GitHub. Means our declarative pipelines will be configured inside this Jenkins file, and this Jenkins file will be stored in the GitHub repository. Okay, so if you see this, so can you help me out whether this is a scripted pipeline or declarative pipeline?
Declarative.
Yeah,
Scripted.
why?
Pipeline
Yeah, pipeline
started with
because
pipeline.
syntax.
Pipeline.
Yes. Okay, so this is a declarative pipeline. As I said, it is not mandatory that scripted pipelines can only be stored inside the job. Bidirectional, whether we can store in Jenkins file or inside the job. That depends.
So, but there under use Groovy sandbox, we like put a tick mark there, sir. If we remove the tick mark, what will happen, sir? Means here it indicates it is using Groovy or not.
It will not indicate
Okay.
anything. Okay. So basically, with this option, this is trying to approve some scripts, whatever scripts you want to execute in your pipelines. Okay. Here you have something. See, here we have one more option called scripted pipeline. If I'll click this, so which pipeline is this now?
It starts with
Scripted pipeline, because it is been starting with node. And then definition, I mean, we are trying to define the Maven home path, and then we have the stages, different stages. Okay, this is quite complex to understand. Let me open one more GitHub. So which pipeline is this? Declarative or scripted?
Declarative.
Yes, so this is a declarative pipeline. Okay, so now, and apart from this, why declarative pipeline is gaining popularity? Because of the syntax. Anyone without development background can be easily able to understand and write these pipelines, and are very strict in terms of syntax and has set of rules to create the pipelines. Means it has a certain limits. You cannot inject any code in the pipeline. Okay, this is very popular because of the syntax, means it has a very limited syntax usages. I mean, it has a certain rules what we need to follow while creating the declarative pipeline. Okay, so because it has a certain rules, is it not mandatory, or else this is not something what we should use? No, it will also help us to resolve complex CI/CD process. Okay, clear?
Yes.
Now let us see the example of both these pipelines, means how these pipelines will look like. So for example, here we have two different pipelines. Okay, pipeline, and then agent any. Inside stages we'll have stage, example build stage. This is just a sample pipeline what I'm trying to define. In interviews, remember one thing, no one will ask you to write the complete pipeline. Everyone is expecting you the same syntax. How can you define your pipeline? That's it. This is very easy. Do not just look at these scripts. For example, do not just look at this script and get afraid of these scripts. Okay, so this is very easy when we try to break these scripts. Okay, so steps, and then we'll have one more stage. Example deploy. In deploy we'll have different steps. Okay, so this is how a pipeline will looks like. This is nothing but our declarative pipeline. Clear? So this is one example of declarative pipeline. Similarly, when it comes to scripted pipeline, right? Okay, so it starts with node, and then it will have the stages directly. Okay, so this is how our scripted pipeline will looks like. Clear?
Bro, here
Yes.
agent is any in node mission in node scripted there is no agent means here we have to give the labels of the slave machine, but here
Yeah,
no need.
you can,
Will
you
it
need to
take
configure it.
defaultly
No, no,
in
we need to
scripted?
configure that agents as well.
In scripted we cannot find any agent like that. Will it take defaultly or
See, if I am not specifying anything, then it will run on the master machine. Okay.
is it possible to assign like that? Which node machine it should be in scripted?
No, see, I'm just wanted to share the syntax. That's it. Ignore agent for now. Check out the syntax. That's it. Okay. So this is how the syntax of declarative and scripted pipeline will looks like. Okay. So now let us try to see the execution part, how this is actually working. For example, this is my Jenkins job scripted pipeline, right? So here, or even we have the same pipeline syntax. If I'll open this pipeline syntax, then it will try to help us with a certain syntax. For example, you want to clone your repository. Here is our Git. Okay, here we have Git. Okay, so try to paste one repository. For example, this is my repository. Okay. or else let me change, because this is a private one, right? Let me open this demos, copy. Okay, so generate pipeline script. So what it will do, it will try to print the command what we want to execute. Okay, so you can also generate your pipeline and try to copy this syntax and paste in your steps, means at this particular part. Inside the steps, whatever steps you want to configure, you can configure. Okay, and apart from that, okay, let me just go back. So here in scripted pipeline, okay, let me just copy this code and try to paste. So here we are going to define our particular script. Okay, so here for example, see if you want to add any agent, right? So here you can replace that agent. Okay, and what are the different stages and what is the step you want to execute? So for example, first step, git clone. Okay, and this is my repository. Let me just copy this. And paste this. Okay, so what this stage will do? This stage will help me to download my source code from this particular repository. Okay, and then we have build stage, whatever commands you want to add. For example, you want to build your application, right? mvn clean install. This was our command to compile the source code. And then if you want to have any test cases, for example, SonarQube, you can configure the SonarQube stages, SonarQube test, and then try to pass the command whatever you want to execute. Okay, so let me just save the script and let me try to build now. Failed because of some syntax error, I guess. If not, it approved for use. Okay, let me build now. Syntax error. Let me fix this. Okay, let me build now. So what will happen? First stage it will get executed. Second stage it will get failed. Even first stage has been failed because git clone got failed. Let us see what happened. Or else let me do one thing. Let me just try to add some sample steps in this pipeline instead of cloning. Okay, save. And if I'll click on build now, so what will happen? It will try to execute all the stages from our pipeline. More or less. Okay, now if I'll open this, so first it is trying to execute the first stage, which is sleep for 5 seconds, and then build SonarQube and deploy. Okay, so all the stages, whatever we want to pass, right? So we have 6 stages: Git clone, SonarQube, Maven, Nexus, post build actions, everything we can see from here only. So whatever stage it has been failed, you can check the stage. I mean, for example, if it has been failed at step 1, right? So it will not move to step 2 or stage 2. Our pipeline will get failed. So this is how we can configure one pipeline. Whether it is scripted or declarative, the output will be similar. I mean, the graphical user interface is almost same. The only difference is where we are trying to store the script and how the script has been developed. I mean, in terms of the parameters or the syntax. Clear?
So,
Yes.
For example, if I am
Yes.
trying to create one scripted pipeline, right? So let me create one more job, declarative this time. Okay, pipeline. Okay. So you can, I mean, if it is asked in interviews, right? So whether you have used declarative and scripted, so what will be your answer?
Declarative.
Declarative.
Declarative only. Okay. So this is the description, and then here what I will do instead of pipeline script, because declarative will be stored in the source code management, right? So I will be selecting this option, and then it will ask what is our source code management, whether that is Git or GitHub, sorry, GitLab or any XYZ source code management tools. So I would use Git, and then it is asking me to configure the repository URL, means from which repository this Jenkins job can find the pipeline. Okay, in previous job what we have did, we have configured inside the job itself, so it didn't ask for any repository and all. Everything was configured in the same job. Okay, here it is asking for us to provide the URL of the repository. So where is my GitHub? So this is my GitHub. So now let me try to create one new repository for this job. I'm just adding one repository. Okay, public one, create repository. Okay, so this is my code. From this particular code, it should fetch my pipeline. So in this source code, where is our pipeline? We haven't created any pipeline, right? So let me create one new file, and the name of the file will be Jenkins file. Okay, in this Jenkins file, I will try to add the steps, whatever my pipeline should execute. Okay, so here if you see this, this is the standard name of our pipeline. If you are trying to change the name of the pipeline, right, then make sure you are changing the name of this file as well, the path from which particular file it should look for the pipeline stages. Okay, this is one of the standard name what we commonly see. I mean, 99% will see the same names. Clear? Now let me add one. Where is my repo? Okay, so this is my Jenkins file, right? So this is one pipeline. So let me copy this pipeline. Okay, in this pipeline, what is happening? This is pipeline, and then it is trying to run on any agent, means whatever machine is available, whether it is master or slave, whichever is available, try to execute this job on that agent. And then in stages block, we have different stages. First stage is build, second stage is test, third is integration test, and then deploy. Okay, so we have 4 different stages here. Clear? How many stages do we have? 4 different stages. Okay, so let me save this now. Commit changes, commit changes. So if I'll copy this repository and paste in my Jenkins job, so what my Jenkins will do, my Jenkins will go and check for this particular repository. In this repository, it is trying to check for the master branch, but here which branch do we have? We have the branch called main. There is no master. So let me update this to main, and then it will go and check for the file called Jenkins file. So we have the same name, Jenkins file, right? So let me save this now. Okay, now if I'll try to trigger this job build now, let us see what is happening. So basically what it will do, it will try to execute all the jobs. See, build, test, unit test, integration test, and deploy. Means these are the different stages. As of now, there is nothing in that stage. It is just trying to execute some messages. That's it. Okay, but when it comes to our pipelines, for build, we'll be having one command maven compile build, and then for test, we'll be having our sonar kube integration test. For deploy, we'll be having our Kubernetes deployments, right? So this is how we can define one pipeline. Clear? How can we run these pipelines?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Now let us see on this part. Let me try to copy this pipeline and try to break this structure so that we can understand this. Or else let me try to copy and open in Visual Studio. Okay, here if you'll see, this starts with pipeline and then we try to configure agent. Okay, always remember, so pipeline and then we have two flower brackets, one is opening and one is closed. Means whatever stages we are going to define, everything should be within these flower brackets only, under this block. Okay, and then we are trying to configure the agent, and then we have stages. Inside stages we can have multiple stages again, but when it comes to scripted pipeline, right, so we'll, for every step we'll have one stage, stage 1, stage 2. But in declarative we have stages block, under stages block we have different stages. Okay, now if you'll see the first stage, again we'll try to write the stage name. Okay, flower brackets open, and then we have steps. Under this steps block we try to configure whatever step you want to create or execute. And SSG is nothing but shell commands, means whatever commands you want to pass in order to execute this, you will be writing in this particular block only. Okay, so this stage is done, and then we have stage 2, that is test stage. Okay, again in test stage we have parallel. Okay, let me remove this. Okay, again in stage 2, let me remove this as well. This is how basically it should look. Okay, so again in test stage we have steps, and then we have different commands what we want to execute, and then we have third stage, and inside this stage we have different steps what we want to execute. Or else if let me try to write this. It starts with pipeline, flower brackets open, so because all our pipeline will be written inside this only, and then agent any, and then we'll configure our stages. Inside the stages we'll have our stage. For example, our first stage is git clone. Okay, try to open and close for the stage, and then steps, try to open and close, and then step, which step you want to write. For example, git repository URL, some URL you want to execute, and then we'll have one more stage, that is sonar cube underscore integration. Okay, inside this we'll have steps, and inside these steps we'll have our commands what we want to execute. Similarly, we'll have one more stage, maven compilation, and then again inside this stage we'll have our steps, SH, XH. So this is how we can define the skeleton of our pipeline. This is the basic syntax what interviewers will be expecting in the interview. I mean, they'll ask you to share your screen and write one pipeline. At that point of time, try to write pipeline in this way. But here what you can do, you can try to define GitHub URL. Do not write any URL link directly. Okay, just try to add GitHub URL, and then in Sonar Cube you can add opt sonar underscore scanner slash bin -d project name. This is what we have used earlier, right? Test. Okay, so this is how you can write one sample command over there. Okay, and then for Maven you can try to write Maven clean install. Try to add these steps in your pipeline while presenting in the interviews. Clear?
Yes.
Yes. So now what we can do, we can add these stages in our Jenkins pipeline, and our Jenkins pipeline will help us to execute the set of tasks. So we do have a lot of pipelines. I mean, if I'll open this, if I'll open Cyber Simple Customer app, here we will have, you can see the pipeline. See Jenkins file. See pipeline, and then I'm trying to execute this on the master machine, and here I'm trying to add one tools block where I'm trying to specify the Maven path, means where is my Maven configured, and then we are trying to have an environmental block where we are trying to provide all the details related to our Nexus, and then we have first stage, that is git clone. Okay, and then we have second stage, that is Maven build, third stage publish to Nexus. That's it. So we have 3 stages in this pipeline. Try to clone these repositories and try to execute, then you will understand how this is actually working. Do not worry about the syntax. In any interview they will be expecting the skeleton only, this part only. Try to write the syntax for different stages. Clear?
Sir.
Yes. Yes.
And then what else do we have? So this is how, I mean, the basic difference between declarative and scripted, both are almost same in terms of nature, but the only thing is in terms of syntax and in terms of complexity, both are different. So no need to use Groovy, we are using bash scripting. Try to mug up one script, at least these 3 to 4 stages. Mug up the script. This is very important. While working, you might be writing the script or not, that doesn't matter, but as of now for interviews, they will be asking for sure. Okay. And
Yes.
then what I have seen in interviews is they will be asking us to pass the global variables, means where can we store global variables in Jenkins?
Credential.
For example, see new item. Okay, so for example, they will be asking you a question called how to call a particular variable in your Jenkins job. Means that variable is globally available across Jenkins server, and that should be called in any job, whether it is declarative, scripted, or plugin based job. So for that, what we need to do, we need to configure, go to manage Jenkins. Under system configurations, we have something called environmental variables. Here if you see this global properties, if I click on environmental variables, it is asking you to provide a set of variables. So here what I will try to do, I will try to configure one variable called name, and the value of this name is Tekai horizon. Okay, so I am trying to store one environmental variables and click on save. Now let me try to create one job. Test freestyle. Okay, I'm trying to use freestyle for now. Okay, and here instead of doing all the steps, I will use execute shell, and I will try to call my variable, means echo dollar name. So this is how we can print the name of our variable, right? So click on save, and let me click on build now. So let us see what it is trying to print. If I'll open this, see name is TK horizon. So where I have stored this variable? In the Jenkins system configuration under environmental variables. So that's how we can pass any parameters globally, and that parameter can be called in any of the pipelines. Clear? This will be asked in interviews. How can we pass a variable globally? Then we need to store any value or any parameter, whatever value you want to pass in the system configuration under environmental variables. Let me go back to that location. Okay, dashboard, manage Jenkins system, and then here you can find the environmental variable. So what is the use of this? There might be some values what we want to call again and again, right? So instead of declaring it in the pipelines, we can configure in the global properties, and this variable can be called in our pipelines. No need to define each and every in every pipeline. Define it one time in the environmental variables and call. For example, Java path, right? So Java, we are using Java 1.8 or 11 version, right? So instead of calling it again and again, we can store in the environmental variables, and I can call that particular variable. And apart from this, we do have some predefined global variables. I mean, this is my custom variable what I have configured, right? So here if you'll see this, how many variables here do we have? Only one variable, that is name variable. Okay, so let me go back to dashboard, test, configure. I'm trying to execute one more command here. Dollar echo dollar field underscore number. Okay, I'm trying to add two more variables, job name and build number. These variables I haven't defined anywhere. Did we define any variables? No, right? So let me just save and see what is happening. Build now. Okay, if I'll open this, here you can see the name of our job. See echo test, and this is my build number 2. It is trying to print these two as well. So from where this Jenkins was able to track my variables? Basically, these are the global variables which are being provided by Jenkins only, means job number, build name or build number. All these details are global variables which are already available. If you want, you can call that variable. That's it. No need to define these variables. That we call as global variables, predefined one. And this is something what I have customized as per my requirement. Okay.
So where can we find all those variables? Means
See here,
predefined variables
yeah,
default.
see here you have one message. If I click here, you can see this branch name, branch memory, change ID. So here you can see all the predefined variables. Okay. Here you can have this change author, target branch. You have lot of predefined variables. You can just, so I have called bill number and job name. These two variables is what I have called. Clear? How can we pass the global variables in Jenkins? Understood? And then we have one more concept called parallel stages. This is also very important. I have basically in today's session I'm only trying to target whatever I have seen in interviews, questions related to our jobs. Okay, so then we have something called parallel stages. For example, let me write one pipeline, then agent any and stages. Inside this stage we'll have our stage called git clone. We'll have our steps, we'll have our script, or else instead of script, let me use this git clone and then github underscore url. So this is one stage, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Let me try to write one more stage, that is test, and then inside these steps we'll have one okay. So this is stage 2. Let me write one more stage here, that is to deploy. Okay, so here how many stages do we have?
C.
Three stages.
Three, right? So here the requirement is, so my stage test and stage deploy means stage 2, or else let me make this stage 2, let me make this stage 3. Okay, here my requirement is to stage 2 and stage 3 should be executed at same time parallelly. Understood the requirement? The requirement
Yes.
is stage 2 and
Yes.
stage 3 should execute parallelly. Okay, stage 2 and stage 3 means first, if I mean basically how it is getting executed, first it is trying to execute git clone and then stage 2 and then stage 3. This is how the flow of our pipeline is moving from one stage to another stage. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so now my requirement is to execute stage 2 and stage 3 parallelly, means both should be get executed at the same point of time. There should be no gap.
So, Saber, why is there a need of going parallelly? Because we have to be making sure, right, that it should be tested first, then it should be deployed after that.
that
What would
that that was as per our requirement, means you wanted to make sure that all the test cases have been successfully executed and then only it should move to the next stage. But there might be some requirement that you don't want to wait for one of the output of the job, right, or the stage, or you are just trying to clone different I mean copy certain files from one server to another server with the help of your Jenkins pipelines. At that point of time, you don't want to waste time and you want to parallelly execute multiple stages at the same point of time, so that it will help you
Okay,
to
so if we
build
don't
your
have time,
job
we go for
early.
this.
Yeah, it will help you to
Hmm.
basically build the job within, it will try to help us to reduce the timing. Okay,
Okay,
but
got it.
as per our requirement, it was mandatory for us to wait until that job has been executed successfully. But this is also available, this is one feature which is available and which is commonly asked in interviews as well. Okay,
Right.
so here we have two different stages and I want to execute these stages parallelly. So in this case, what we'll do, we have a syntax called parallel. Okay, so we have a syntax called parallel which can be used in the pipeline. Okay, for example, here if you see this my declarative pipeline, let me try to build this and check the output. Okay, here what is happening, it is trying to build, test, unit test, I mean it is trying to execute one by one, right? So let me just go to this repository. Okay, this is my Jenkins file what I have been using. Here if you see this, we have one stage called test. Under this stage we have two different stages, one is unit test and one is integration test, and we are trying to execute this stage parallelly, means unit test and integration test should be happening at the same point of time. Here if you see test, unit test, integration test. Okay, so now what I will do is I'll just try to make some changes to this so that we can see the changes. Where is my job? Yes, Okay, here we have echo 5 seconds, right, for unit test. Let me try to add same command. Okay, so here what I'm trying to do, we have first stage build, second stage test, and third stage is deploy. But again in test we have two different stages which should be executed parallelly. So I am trying to just define the parallel keyword and a open bracket and then close bracket. And what are the different stages I want to execute parallelly? I am trying to define within this block only. Understood?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me save this now then. Okay, let me commit this and let me try to build my job and see what is happening. Checkout is done. See 5 seconds and this is paused. Okay, see 5 seconds and 5 seconds. Build time is same. Means it has been executed both the steps parallelly.
If it
Clear?
fails, if it goes with the third, I mean next step, next stage.
No. If it is failed, then it will stop. That again depends. Okay, so if you want to ignore the failure stages, right? I mean, whatever, whether it has been failed, then if you want to ignore, then it will move. That depends upon the condition how you are passing. Okay, so we have something called parallel keyword, what we can use in order to execute stages parallelly. Understood?
Yes.
Yes.
And then we have something called shared libraries. What is the use of shared libraries? So what is the use of shared libraries? This will be asked in interviews as well. You can expect this question. Shared libraries means basically, let me try to design this. Okay, this is my GitHub repository. Here I'm trying to create one repo called shared library. Okay, so in this repository, what I will do, I will try to store all the stages. For example, I have this document here. Okay, so for example, okay, so this is my repository, Git repository. Repository, new. Okay, I'm trying to configure one repo with all my stages. Okay, shared libraries and create repository. So what I have did, I have just created one repository and then now I'm trying to create one file. Let me copy this syntax. Okay, so this is basically one stage which is available. Okay, so add the script to git repository. See, this is the Groovy script what we are trying to use. I'm trying to define the name with hello.groovy. Means I have defined one location in the central repository with a particular script and with a particular stage. This is one stage, commit changes. So similarly, what I will do, I will try to add all the stages in my repository only. For example, git clone, I will create one more file and I'll try to define that. Sonar cube, I will try to define that. Maven, I will try to define that. All the stages will be stored in this repository. So once this repository is done, then I will try to configure my Jenkins pipeline. Okay, Jenkins job, whether it is declarative or scripted. Okay, so in this Jenkins job, what I will do, for example, we'll have our Jenkins file, right? Okay, in this Jenkins file, what I will do, I will not try to use, I mean, I will not try to write all these stages. See. Okay, so this is my shared libraries and this is my job where I was storing my syntax. Okay, so in this Jenkins file I will not define all the stages because already the stages has been defined in that repository, right? So what I will do here, I will just try to call my location, means here basically we need to inform our Jenkins that you should take the libraries from this location. We need to go to manage Jenkins and we need to set up this from where it should try to capture or copy all the libraries. Okay, so I'm just trying to define this. This is my pipeline now. So here in this pipeline, if you see this @library, it is to call the shared libraries, and then the name of the library means whatever name you have saved in your repository, right? So which particular library you want to call. So define this. So this is the syntax. Now if I click on commit changes, okay, and now if I'll go here and if I'll execute my job, right? So basically as of now this will get failed, but when we already configure the Jenkins shared libraries location and everything, so what it will do, my job will try to go to this location, try to download this code and try to execute the job. So what is the benefit with the help of shared libraries now? First thing is our code complexity is very less, means we are not writing any code, we are just trying to call the library which has been already written. So with the help of shared libraries, we can use the same piece of code again and again for different applications. For example, you have 10 different applications, then no need to define all the Jenkins pipeline, right? So you just need to call the library, that's it. Clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So shared libraries will help us to ease our task, reuse the same code, reduce the complexity of your Jenkins file, similar to Ansible roles what we have used, right? So roles also what we are trying to do, we are trying to segregate the task. Okay, I will share this document and I want you guys to implement these shared libraries as part of the task. Clear?
Yes.
Yes, Sagar.
Yes.
Do you have any questions, guys?
Sir, sir, please explain multi-branch pipeline, sir. What does it mean?
Multi-branch pipeline means basically you will have the code base in two different branches. For example, this is your repository. You have one branch called main. Here you have a set of code, and again you have one more branch with master or release. There you will have set of code. In this case, we can use multi-branch pipeline. So what it will do, it will try to clone the code from both the branches. And what is the benefit of multi-branch? Both are independent, means if you have any kind of dependencies, for example, stage 1 should be executed from the main branch, stage 2 should be executed from the release branch. In that case we can use multi-branch pipelines.
Okay.
All the purpose is same, CI/CD, that's it. Whether you are using pipelines, plugin based job, freestyle, Maven project, or multi-branch pipelines. Clear?
Got it.
Yes.
So these are the few important concepts what we can expect in interviews related to pipeline. Okay, do not worry about the syntax. Syntax is very easy. Just try to understand the skeleton. I mean, how it is being formed. No one will ask you to define all the stages and everything. Clear? So guys, try to work on this. Try to watch this video. Try to take all the possible notes because this is something what you might expect in every interview. And then I will be sharing set of tasks. Try to work on the task. So, okay, if you are sorry, someone is asking something. Sorry.
ఏజెంట్ లేబుల్లో నేషనల్ రాశారు, ఒకసారి లేబుల్ ఏజెంట్లో ఏది అని రాశారు, డిఫరెన్స్ ఏంటి వాటికి?
Basically, if any means if your agent is any, so it will try to pick any particular machine, means whether it is a master, Java, Python, Node.js. We have that configuration, right? So here In dashboard, let me go to dashboard, manage Jenkins, nodes. Okay, new node. Let me just try to add one. Okay, here if you'll use this node as much as possible. So what it will do, it will try to execute the jobs whenever we have the, I mean, if no job is running on this agent. So if you'll configure this option, so what will happen, how many machines do we have? We have master and we have test. So when we pass the option as any, so it can be executed either on master or test machine based upon the availability. Or if you want to execute on test only, this is how we need to configure the name of our job. Okay,
టెస్ట్ రాయాలా?
test is the label, name of your job, node machine.
మీరు టేబుల్ మాస్టర్ అని రాశారు స్క్రిప్ట్ లో,
Label,
మాస్టర్ అని రాశారు కదా, నేను ఓన్లీ టెస్ట్ అని రాశారు, లేబుల్ డినోట్ చేయలేదు.
agent label, and then name of the label. This is how the syntax will be formed. So it will try to execute your job on the label, slave machine with the name called test. Okay.
Saber,
Yes.
we went to the task for the parameterized job in Jenkins, right? So is it useful?
Yeah,
Are the
it is also useful. See, there will be lot of jobs. Okay, so you might be having some jobs related to database, there might be some jobs related to CI CD. Okay, some jobs related to provisioning of the infrastructure, right? So there will be a number of jobs on the Jenkins server. Do not expect that you will only find 3 jobs or 4 jobs when we log into Jenkins in the offices. You might see a lot of jobs in company, because there will be one Jenkins server and different teams will be working on the same server. You are not the only one who is provisioning the server and try to write the jobs. Okay, so parameterized jobs and all will help you to streamline the process. I mean, make it more generic.
all right? Understood.
For example, there might be some requirement. For example, see, okay, here let me open one parameterized job. Okay, here we have something called parameterized job. Okay, here how many stages do we have? Stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. So for example, you don't want to execute stage 3 every time, means it should be up to you whether you want to execute or not. You want to decide whether you want to execute that job or ignore that job. Okay, in that case, if suppose I'm using the parameterized job, that is Boolean parameter. So what is Boolean parameter? True or false, right? So Boolean means it can be either true or false, and the default value what I have set is false, and then this is the name of my parameter. Okay, now see what is happening. Boolean parameters, and if I scroll, job name is mvn underscore build, stage name is mvn underscore builds, this name. Okay, here I am trying to define my script and I am passing if condition, means if params.mvn underscore build, means if this value is true, then only execute this stage, else no build, means it can ignore. So what is happening now? You are able to decide which stage you want to execute and which stage you want to ignore. Clear? So this is one such use case why we use
Yes.
parameterized jobs, because every time you don't want to execute all the test cases, right? So as of now, it is taking 1 or 2 minutes of time for us. But when it comes to a project, right? So it might take 10 minutes to build your job, and you don't want to unnecessarily build some stages which are not required for your project. In this case, you can select or configure parameterized jobs.
So this is basically condition based job.
Yes, condition based. In parameters, we have different parameters: string parameter, boolean parameter, and choice parameter. For example, let me just try to do this. Okay, parameterized jobs. Okay, here we have this project is parameterized. Let me click this. See here, these many parameters do we have. For example, choice parameter environment means one job you want to execute for different environment. So you no need to write pipelines again and again, right? So what I will do, I will decide here. If prod test description, select any environment. Okay, and then I'm trying to add one more parameter, for example string parameter. Here I'm trying to name, default name is sticky horizon. Okay, save. So now if you'll see this, build with parameters. Okay, so if I'm trying to click here or execute my job, so here it is asking which particular environment you want to select. For example, prod, I will select prod. Okay, name, either take a horizon or server. And if I click on build, so what will happen? My pipeline will be designed in a way that whenever I'll click on prod or development, it will try to execute on that particular environment only. That's how we are going to decide or write our pipelines in the background. So now what will happen? So it will try to execute our stages in that particular environment. Okay, or else let me try to configure this. Okay, here I have configured one variable, right? Copy, echo dollar name. I'm trying to just call this name. Save. Okay, build with parameters. Name is techie horizon. If I click on build, then it will try to print techie horizon. From where it got these details? From the parameters. So from the parameters, our job will try to fetch the details, and based upon the details, it will try to manipulate. Clear? Similarly, we have lot of
Yes.
parameters. We have Boolean parameters. We have choice parameters. Okay.
All right, sir.
Guys, do you have any questions or we are good with this?
కంపెనీలో డిక్లరేటివ్ యూజ్ చేసాం స్క్రిప్ట్ యూజ్ చేసినట్లు ఏం చెప్పాలి
ఏదైనా యూజ్ చేయొచ్చు. I mean, that's not mandatory that they will be using declarative only, but most of the times you can find declarative pipelines only. Because declarative, it will be very easy to move from one environment to another environment because we are trying to store everything in the Jenkins file, right? So if I'll copy the Jenkins file, it will be very easy to copy. But whereas to copy all the configurations inside the job, then it might be quite difficult. Okay, then if you don't have any questions, then we'll wind up this call. Thank you so much, guys.